This is their top seller. It still is, no matter what else they put out. This is their classic Coke. It just does the best out of everything else they sell. Even so, Cherry Coke here is really, really good, and I think you'd enjoy it. Hey my friends, Late Boy Scout here with my review of the Benchmade Mini-Barrage as well as the full-size Barrage. It's going to be kind of a 2-for-1, 4-for-1, 6-for-1, whatever you want to call it. We're showing you a lot of knives today. We're also going to be showing you some testing footage of this knife going through paper, through wood, through cardboard, all that stuff I like to test my EDC knives on to give it a good run for its money and determine what it's worth. But before we get into all that kind of stuff, let's talk about the knife just a little bit. It is an axis lock Benchmade. It is spring assisted, so it flies out real nice and fast. It's got this grippy, not very grippy handle on it. I've already forgotten the name of it. It's got kind of a texture to it. It feels like a GTX, not too different from what they have on the Mini Grip Tillion. It's a bit different, but for most uses it feels about the same. It's also got a safety here on the back. You push that forward and then it keeps that blade from being able to close on you, even if you depress. Well, it won't let you depress the axis lock, and so it cannot close on you, at least as long as that doesn't fail. And then, of course, it also makes it so that if you have that closed like that, you cannot sling that open. So, good feature if you want that kind of a safety. I've got that safety on, what is it? Oh, I think it's the Kershaw Leak has that. It's a different kind of safety, obviously, but I don't mind having it on a spring assist. I'll take it when I can get it, I suppose. The pocket clip, you can see right there, buries fairly deep. You got it about right there or so. You've got a little lanyard hole on there, not super wide, but big enough. Then you can swap that pocket clip around to the other side for righties or lefties. That's always a good feature too. And then we can look at the interior of the knife and see that we've got stainless steel liners in there that are somewhat drilled out, if I can see that properly. I believe I'm seeing that. Yeah, you can kind of see that. Looks like we've got somewhat drilled out to make that somewhat skeletonized and a little bit lighter than it might be otherwise. And how light is it? Something like 3.4 ounces. So under 4 for sure, and that's pretty good. Steel is 154 cm, fantastic steel for EDC or whatever. It holds a great edge, takes a great edge, easy to resharpen too. Really like it. Overall, it's a great knife, well put together. Benchmade does great work. And I'm definitely happy with the Mini-Barrage overall. Let's get into some varieties of this knife because I told you I would show you those and I want to. Let's see what Benchmade is offering right now as a version of the Mini-Barrage. Check that out. G10 and aluminum. Real nice. So this is an upgraded version of it, and the steel is actually upgraded as well to M390. I haven't got any time behind that steel. I hear it's amazing. I really need to get something in M390 and try it out. This is on loan, of course, from Blade HQ. But just showing you some of the other varieties. Now, this is also a variety for blade shape or blade feature. You can see that in this variety right here, we've got a little bit more of kind of the flat ground that you see here, and sort of the profile of that blade shape is a little different from what you see here. This comes up a lot higher than it does on that one, and the swedge doesn't come quite as far back as it does on this variety of the knife. However, if you get just this version of it, you're paying like 120 bucks in the first place, but you can get that in a coated blade and a serrated, or uncoated and serrated. You got all these varieties to choose from in the $120 154 cm variety of it. Coated costs a little bit more. That's always going to be the case. This one right here is something like $185 for this version of the Mini-Barrage. Again, that's mainly due to the upgraded steel, but also the G10 and the aluminum bolsters give it a little bit more of a kind of a pizzazz, sexiness to it. Really nice looking for sure. Interesting point on this that I'll point out is the pivot. Where is it? How do you adjust the pivot while I'm thinking about it? Well, to adjust the pivot, you actually got to remove this whole scale. So you got to pull that, and that off, and then you got access to that pivot. Then you can lock that up so you get just the right side-to-side lockup that you want while still having some fast deployment on it. And how is that? It is pretty nice and fast. I think I mentioned that before. but it's covered up under there. So if you want quick and easy access to your pivot screw, you don't get it in the Mini Barrage or the full-size Barrage for that matter. But that's just something I want to point out. Again, you got this new version of it, very cool in M390. We can also point out that it comes in a large size too. There's the large Barrage. Make sure the safety's off before I push that thumb stud, and there we go. And that comes in black and serrated, as well as plain blade and non-serrated and plain and serrated and black and non-serrated and all that. This version is, what is it, 130, 135? Not much more than this right here. So if you love the style of this, but you want a larger one, go ahead and get that bigger one. How's the blade or the handle thickness? How does that compare on the two? They feel pretty close, actually. Let's turn them this way. I think they're kind of close. I bet you, I would say that the large sized Barrage is a little bit thicker. Not by a ton. Not by a ton. Blade thickness appears to be the same. Maybe not. Can't really tell. I should have all this data handy. It looks like it's the same. Looks like it's the same, but I would say that the handle is a bit thicker on the full-size Barrage. But you can tell that it follows the exact same styling. The blade shape is just kind of elongated. That's like 3.6 inches instead of the just under 3 inches that you get with the Mini Barrage. Again, great blades on either one of them, and you can see the blade shape is kind of different too, with the blade swedge coming way, way back, whereas it kind of comes to here on the Mini. All right, so some interesting points, interesting things to point out on those two blades and the differences between the Mini and the full-sized, but both excellent blades. And this one's not that much heavier. This is just over 4 ounces as opposed to, what did I say, 3.4? Yeah, so just a little over 4 for this one. So that's still very, very carryable, and it's very tough for its size. And I'll talk about that in the testing portion of this video, and as I talk about how it did in those various tests. There's also the full-size version of the M390 Barrage that you can get a hold of. You can see again the grind on it changing. The overall blade shape is very, very similar, possibly exactly the same. There might be slightly kind of more of a elongated sweep to this one, whereas that has a kind of a belly out there towards the edge. If I'm seeing that right, I believe that's what we have. Otherwise, blade shape very similar, otherwise functionally just exactly the same. G10, aluminum, same pivot mechanism, same construction, virtually same construction overall. Both great knives, but again, this one is going to come in at around 200. Do I have that right? I think it's just under 200. This one's, like I said, 185 or something like that. Then, of course, you can get this in coated, serrated, non-coated, non-serrated, etc., etc. So you got a lot of different varieties that you can get of this particular knife. This is the one that is mine that I've been testing out. The rest are loaners from Blade HQ. And I'm totally happy with the Mini. It's a little more carryable for my preferences. The rest of them are fantastic knives. And really, they could be exactly what you want. So keep an eye out for them if you want one of these. M390, once again, could be a really nice deal to try out. And I need to get some time behind that steel. We will talk about how this thing did for EDC testing very shortly, but before we get to that, let's compare it against a handful of other excellent EDC knives. Again, this one coming in around 120. How about the Spyderco Native? This one in, where's the steel on it? Yeah, there it is, you can see it. S35VN. Fantastic steel. Better, I would say, superior in many ways to 154CM, and less than $100, I think, on this. I believe it's under 100. Lighter weight, really nice lightweight on that Native. This is the Spyderco Native lightweight, so it would be lighter weight. Really comparable blade, utility, size, etc. on that. Comparable in a lot of ways, really. This is a pretty nice and tough knife. And if you want to compare tough knives, how about the Mini Recon 1 from Cold Steel, AUS 8 steel? What is it, $60, $50, $60 for this Mini? Can't remember. Somewhere in that neighborhood. The G10 is ridiculously grippy and tough, and you can baton this thing and process firewood with it, and I have. It's amazing. Really, really tough knife. I would say that just about everything else I'm going to put on the table is not quite as tough as that. That's probably true, but they are superior in other ways, I would say. Here's the Mini Presidio, one of my favorite EDCs. Just love this guy right here, and I understand that it's discontinued. Is that true? I don't know. Not sure if that's true, but if it is, that makes me sad. Or glad that I got one before it did get discontinued, but whatever. It's 154 cm steel, a little more expensive, or was a little more expensive than the Mini-Barrage, mostly due to the aluminum handle scales, which are awesome and all distressed by me just for the sake of aesthetics and because I think it looks cool. How about the Kershaw Skyline, a much more affordable alternative to the rest of the ones here on the table. The Skyline's an excellent knife. I've never said it's, still not really one of my favorites. I own it, obviously, because I like it, and it's a great reference knife, but it's just not one of my top favorites. The steel, though, is definitely excellent. 14C28N steel, easy to sharpen, holds a great edge. I really like the steel a lot, actually. And not a ton of money for that. What are you paying for that? Less than $40, $35, $40, if that. So great options here. There's tons of other great options. We could also compare the Mini-Barrage to the Mini-Griptilian, which we did briefly before, but there they are in size and in hand. I would say that the Griptilian is smaller, slimmer, not as fast, obviously, because it doesn't have the spring assist to it, but useful in every way that the Mini-Barrage is, in my opinion. Doesn't quite fill the hand as much as the Mini-Barrage does. I kind of like that. It's got a lot to it when you grab onto that. It fills your hand real nicely. Let's get some of these other blades out of the way so we can talk about some of the testing, the EDC testing that I did with this Mini-Barrage, and cover some of those points of ergonomics. When I started the testing, slicing some paper, of course, I started off with a really nice edge on the knife, and so it slipped through that paper really, really nicely and smoothly, and I wasn't expecting any less, and it performed just as I expected it to. Really nice performer as far as just edge performance on slicing through that paper. Next, I moved on to some cardboard. Need to move on to the cardboard to get a sense of how it deals with that kind of friction and that kind of, the glue and everything like that. Cardboard can be a challenging material, more so than a lot of us think it is. And it can also show you, reveal some things ergonomically with the knife. One of the things that I discovered in slicing through that section of cardboard was that my thumb wanted to come up here to the ramp of the knife. There's no jimping at all up there, no grippiness of any kind. And so my thumb kind of slipped past that and kind of landed and rested on the little hump, right here. What would you call that? Sort of not a choil, but quillion, I suppose. Rested on top of that quillion, and it was not really a comfortable spot to be resting my thumb, but that's where it slid up to in order to get some of that slicing done. Not the best. I ended up kind of going with the hammer fist grip instead and slicing the rest of the way. Worked fine in the end, but it would be kind of nice to have something of a ramp there that's a little, lends itself to locking your thumb in. It'd be nice, but yeah, it is what it is. Moving on, I started working on some 1x2 pine and just kind of carved away at that for a little bit to get a sense of the ergonomic performance of it, and also to see how it dug into and pried away at and dealt with that little bit of wood. It dealt with it just fine. Obviously, it had no chips in the edge, no problems with the lockup afterwards. It was still doing just fine as a knife. It was completely usable and just perfect. I mean, it would do that all day long. I have no doubt about it. The ergonomics on it, of course, is something you want to keep in mind, and I would say that it performed exceptionally for its size in kind of doing that sort of carving. It whittled and it kind of dug into that with that kind of full weight bearing down onto the wood with no real discomfort in my palm or the web of my hand that I could tell, that I could notice. So I would say that it was a great performer in all those EDC tests, and it would perform so well in many, many others. I did get this knife secondhand. You see a lot of scuffs and scratches on the blade. Some of that was from the previous user, some of that was from me. I've definitely used it quite a bit since I've had it, carried it for quite a while, and used it in just about every EDC situation that I can think of. And it's been a great performer. I've had it for a couple of years now, and I really like it. Would I say that this is my top Benchmade in the class? No, that still goes to the Mini-Griptilian, which, there's a reason that they sell so many of this knife right here, the Mini-Griptilian Benchmade. This is their top seller. It still is, no matter what else they put out. This is their classic Coke. It just does the best out of everything else they sell. Even so, Cherry Coke here is really, really good, and I think you'd enjoy it. The Benchmade Mini-Barrage, a fantastic knife available in lots of other varieties. Check it out. I'm the Late Boy Scout. Thanks very much for watching, and I'll see you later. You guys, if you saw that video, Knives I Never Buy from EDC, you know that I mentioned the 707 sequel and said that I wouldn't buy it.